I've missed you guys.
Locked in the bunker, shadows shake. One man clapping secrets awake. Board games living, dice they break. Echoes pounding, hearts they quake. In the bunker, board games rolling. One man clapping, stories growing. Hard rock thunder, speakers blowing. Clapping loud, the unknown.
Welcome to the sound of one man clapping. I am the one man coming to you direct from the bunker, and it has been a minute with having to hold down let's see, what was it? Yes, a job. Last weekend was Project L's birthday, so that was filled with shenanigans, and here I am back to the mic for your listening pleasure. Saddle up, OMC crew. We got some catching up to do. Well, it's been a couple of weeks without the sultry sound of my voice, and for that I do apologize. Sometimes life simply gets in the way, but there have been games. Oh, by Odin's beard have there been games. This week will be in full format. I'll share many of the games that were, not all of them. 2 weeks is a long time. I don't want to bore you with, all of that. I'll do my best to corral the crowdfunding shenanigans in FOMOMOFO, and in Voices in My Head, I wax lyrical about the joys and tribulations of replacement parts. Board game parts, not body parts. I'm getting to that kind of age, but we're talking about board game parts. Well, forgive me, OMC crew. It's been 2 weeks since my last confession. Here we go. There's a lot of sins have gone down the last couple of weeks. I want to kick off. Finally, some time ago, it's been sitting on my shelf of opportunity for a little while. I picked up a secondhand market, and I say secondhand market, this was all brand new and shrink basically, except for the main box, of a full Kickstarter pledge of Deep Rock Galactic. Now, Deep Rock Galactic had been on my wish list for quite some time. I'd missed the crowdfunding campaign for whatever reason. It was money, whatever, who knows. And I thought, well, I'll put it on my list. And it's been on my cart at Mood Publishing, or it was in my cart for many, many weeks. And I say many, many weeks because it was many, many of the monies to buy the Deep Rock Galactic. And, of course, international shipping and all whatnot. And then there was a fellow who had his whole Kickstarter pledge up. And it was the core box, it was all the expansions, it was everything but the playmat and the acrylic bits. And it was a great bundle, and he was asking for less than $200 for it. I'm like, bro, sold. Now, it was a long way away for me. When I say a long way away, it was probably about a 3-hour round trip to pick it up. And I picked it up, and I brought it home, and I went, ooh, boxes. Well, on the shelf you go. I'll see you in a little while. So, a couple weeks ago, pulled that out, set it up, learned to play. And I said to the Peanut, hey, do you want to be a mildly racially insensitive character? She said, what do you mean? I said, do you want to be a mining dwarf that shoots guns and says, catchphrase? And she's like, Dad, I'm your girl. So we set it up and we played the introductory scenario for Deep Rock Galactic and loved it. She loved it. I loved it. It's kind of like if Zombicide had a baby with Nemesis. Really great minis. Fantastic production quality, looks great on the table, and you're going through these caves, you're digging holes, you're uncovering new bits, you're collecting stuff, you're upgrading your weapons, you're shooting bugs. It was so much fun, and the Peanut loved it. She was like, when can we play this again, Dad? I'm like, well, very, very soon. Deep Rock Galactic is based on a video game that I had never played. I'm aware that the game exists, but I'd never played it. Let me tell you, the board game is an absolute hoot. We had so much fun with it. To the point where I may have already talked about this on a previous podcast. I didn't go back and look at my last script, so if I have, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. Oh, God, you're just going to have to hear it again. But basically, you have a starting position. You've been dropped off in a drop pod, much like Nemesis, and you've got these tiles that are laid out and goals you have to achieve. And in order to achieve the goals, they usually involve collecting some resources which you can see and some resources which you can't see. And by what I mean they can't see, there's a face-down token in different spaces. Some of those will be the resource you want. Some of them will be other stuff. And you move around the board. You take your actions, which involve moving, shooting, chucking stuff, upgrading your guns. And it's stuff spawns. It gets messy. It's very zombicide-y with that sort of stuff. Stuff spawns. And sometimes it spawns right on top of you. Sometimes the ceiling caves in. There are events every turn. And there's a timer. The time runs out. Guess what? You did. You've got to go out in the cave. You got to get the stuff you need to get, and you got to get back to the pod. You are little mercenaries that work for a big mean corporation trying to get in, get out. It is an absolute bucket of fun, and I cannot wait to play more of it. And that is designed by Ole Steines, arts by Rasmus Bergreen, Jacob Muller, Jonas Springboard, and published by Mood Games. I have, of course, since through Mood Games got the playmat, which is gorgeous, the acrylic tokens, which are likewise gorgeous, and very much looking forward to playing again. Had a game day at Super Troopers in which he decided, because the rule in our group is, well, if you're hosting, you get to pick first game of the day, and that's all fair and reasonable, and he decided he wanted to play Root, and we had not played Root in quite some time, and he recently received some new factions from the last crowdfunding campaign, and so we played Root. I've had an on-again, off-again love-hate relationship with Root. More love than hate, to be honest. My first couple of games of Root I really despised, and every time since then I've had a good time. I tend to make bad decisions in Root largely because I just give up trying to grok the board and everything that's going on and just have fun with it. I played the Frogs. They're in one of the new factions, and the Frogs are like little peacekeepers. And they go all around the woodland vale, and they put extra little... The clearings get an extra type, the frog clearings. And frog clearings give you access to really powerful frog cards. But as soon as you piss the frogs off, they all attack, like in every clearing they're in. It's a wonderful faction, so much fun to play. I absolutely would love to play the frogs again, just because they were so much fun. I ended up, as I said, with Root, I typically get sort of 80% of the way through the game. And it's not that I give up, but I give up trying to grok everything that's going on. And I misplayed, and Voldemort at the table in one fell swoop basically wiped out it was frogicide. All frogs gone in one move. I'm like, well, that was fun. I'll go make lunch while you fuckers finish Root. I had a blast. I really, really had a blast. I won't say that I would ever request Root, but I no longer look at playing it with a sense of sort of dread or anxiety. Root is, of course, by Cole Worley, art by Kyle Farron, published by Leader Games. And Root's been around a long time. If you haven't played Root, play Root. If you don't like war games, play Root anyway. Play it once. You'll probably hate it, but then you can say you played Root. Got a game in of a new game that I managed to get my hands on. It's the Kickstarter version that I bought aftermarket. My good friends Tristan and Sigmund at More Than Meeples in Brisbane. They have a fantastic game board shop. Shout out to you, fine gents. And one of the things that they are excellent at doing is they stock Kickstarter games after Kickstarter's done, and they somehow manage to sell them at reasonable prices. And so I got a copy of the OG Kickstarter for Perch. Now, a perch is a fish. This is not about fish. This is about birds. And Perch is adorable. It's an adorable game. You've got these little birds that stack on top of each other, these little birds' nests and little birds' houses, and these lovely little tiles that are all... It's lovely. Perch is a vicious, horrible, mean game that I loved. I loved every minute of it. So in Perch, you have these tiles that you are laying out, and they're somewhat not overlap, but you've got a row of 3, then a row of 4, and they're lined up such that the 4 touch all 3 tiles, if that makes sense. Then you do another row of 3, another row of 4, and you lay out the meadow. And each tile has specific rules for it. Some of them have nothing, and in which case you're just going for area majority, and some of them will say whoever is second highest in majority on this tile at the end of the round can do something. And on the top right corner of the tile, there are 3 numbers. They might be 1, 3, 5, and if you are first place on that tile at the end of the round, you will get 1 point. Second place gets 3. Third place gets 5. Some of them are really straightforward. It's like first place gets 4 points. Second place gets 2 points. Third place gets 1 point. But basically, it's an area majority where you've got these, birds that you're popping out all around the board. And so on your turn, you get this magic secret squirrel bag, and into that bag go 2 of every player color of birds. This Perch plays 5, so if there's 5 you're playing, 2 go in of each bird. You shake it all up, and then each person in turn order is going to draw 2 birds out of that bag and add 2 of their own. So you might draw 2 of your own birds. You might draw 2 that belong to other players, but you're going to start the round with 4 birds, 2 of your own and 2 drawn from the bag. The delightful, spicy part of this is that you are playing other people's birds each round. So on your turn, it's going to come around to you. You've got 4 birds. Let's say I've got 2 of mine, 1 of Super Troopers, 1 of Project L's. I want to look around the board, and I go, well, where do I want to beef my numbers up? And I'll put my bird out there. That's my turn. Done. Nothing else happens. It goes around, comes back to me. I go, well, I actually want to come second over on that one, not first. And Super Trooper also wants to come second, but fuck him. I'm going to put one of his birds out there. So he comes first and only gets 1 point. Now I'm going to get 3 points. And it goes on and on and on. And it is delightful and spicy. And every turn you're doing something that absolutely shanks the other players at the table. On top of that, you have, I think it's 3 creatures that are randomly drawn at the start of the game. And these creatures are associated with an area. For example, the squirrel. If you control the park bench, you get to control the squirrel. And the squirrel can zip around to all the tiles that are adjacent to the park bench and mess with those areas. It is so easy to teach. On your turn, hey, you're putting a bird out. It's so easy to play. It is so cutthroat and so mean. But because the whole game's mean, no one feels bad. There's no butthurt. There's no bad feelings. I thought Perch was a delight of a game, and it's got that almost Knizia feel for the gameplay because, hey, on your game, you're just putting a bird out, buddy. You put a bird out. At the end of the round, you're going to do area majority scoring. It's like El Grande, if El Grande was a good game. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud? I loved Perch. I loved every minute of Perch. I thought maybe at 5, it was just a tad on the long side. But that said, it was wonderful. And there are other mechanics in that, every time a bird, quote unquote, dies, falls off the perch for whatever reason, it goes over to the fountain, and certain things will send it to the plaza around the fountain, and that's 1 point at the end of the game, and certain things will send them to the fountain, and the fountain is this pyramid of birds that builds up towards the top, and every layer you get higher, you get in-game points based on what layer you get to. So the first bird has to go on layer 1, the second bird has to go on layer 1, the third bird can potentially go on top of bird 1 and 2 and get into layer 2. So sending birds to the fountain, sometimes you want to send your opponent's birds to the fountain and get that bottom layer filled up in the hopes that you can get on top of them and get more points. It was a beautiful push-pull. It was a 5-player knife fight in a phone booth with everybody just stabbing everyone else every time it came around. So many groans, so much table slapping, so much laughing. I thought Perch is a triumph of gaming. I adored every minute of it. Perch has recently just finished a Kickstarter for an expansion. You can get all of the Perch on there. I'm assuming late pledges are open sometime soon. You get all the late pledges and the expansion out of that. It's designed by Douglas Hetrick, art by Ari Oliver, and it's published by Inside Up Games. Perch is fantastic. Also got to play, I played 2 Whistle games. One I'm going to talk about, one I'm not. I played Whistle Stop and I played Whistle Mountain. I'm going to talk about Whistle Mountain because it's the one I liked out of the 2. So I played Whistle Mountain. We played that at Project L's house. Whistle Mountain is by Scott Caputo and Luke Laurie, and I think Scott Caputo also did Whistle Stop. I don't think Luke Laurie was involved in Whistle Stop. But Luke Laurie, obviously, of Andromeda's Andromeda's Edge, and Dwellings of Eldervale, and Cryo. And one of his favorite mechanics is, he's very much worker placement. And when you recall your workers back, they zip through different parts of your boards, or they can do different things. So even on a recall turn, you're getting to do things. That's one of his sort of signature pieces. I know he's not the only one that does it. I do think he was one of the first with Cryo. Certainly, it's very much a part of Dwellings of Eldervale and the DNA and Andromeda's Edge. And it was in Whistle Mountain. So Whistle Mountain, it's basically, we are building infrastructure up the side of a mountain with scaffolding and not buildings, little factories that go out. But there's an ever-increasing water level. There's a flood happening. And so what happens is certain things will trigger the flood, and the flood will move up the side of the mountain, and anything that's trapped below the flood is out of play. If there are any meeples from worker placement or otherwise placed out there, if they get trapped by the flood, they go into the whirlpool. Meeples in the whirlpool at the end of the game are bad. They're bad. They're in-game points. And Whistle Mountain was this really delightful worker placement. What do we call it? Area majority-esque, I guess. But where you are up the side of the mountain when certain things happen will dictate what points you get. Look, it's a really tough one to describe, but you basically have 3 airships, and you're putting airships out, and they're different sizes, and depending on where the airships touch, if they're going in the center grid, those are the actions you get to do. A little bit like Wondrous Creatures, if you play Wondrous Creatures. Pardon me. Or they can slot into... There's 6 or 8 worker spaces around the edge of the board, and you can slot your ships in there. Size doesn't matter. Size in the slot doesn't matter, people. Remember that. If you're slotting, you're putting in the slot, size doesn't matter, right? But if it's on display in the center, then size matters because you're looking at this big airship. Anyway, you put in the slots around the outside, and they're worker placement slots. You get to do certain things, and they are blocked out. People can't get in there. And you're upgrading your board with these gears that give you special bennies and special one-off powers and ongoing powers. It was really, really fun. It was a very, I won't use the word breezy, I will say it was a very midweight Euro that was a lot of fun to play, and it was very easy to learn, and I would be delighted to play Miss Whistle Mountain again. Thank you, Project L, for bringing that to the table on your birthday. As I said, by Scott Caputo, Luke Laurie, art by Mila Harbour, Alana Teskey, published by Bazier. Well, spoiler alert for incoming, Trismegistus arrived. Trismegistus is going to get talked about 3 times in this podcast for various reasons, but Trismegistus arrived. And along with Trismegistus came an update to the Trismegistus Roll and Write. So I played the Trismegistus Roll and Write a number of times, and it is fabulous. All of a sudden, you've got a roll and write that actually feels like a midweight Euro. A roll and write for me, a roll and write and flip and write, they always feel a bit like, okay, well, I've got that. I've got to suck that dick in the corner. What am I going to do with that? And it's like, it's about, what do you do with what's there? Trismegistus roll and write. So in Trismegistus, you're basically alchemists, and you're trying to convert, obviously, metals into different metals. Not always gold, because different metals do different things for you. But the real thing you're trying to do in both games, Trismegistus and the Roll and Write, is you're trying to unscramble or decipher the Philosopher's Stone. And the Philosopher's Stone is represented differently in both games. But in the Roll and Write, it's represented by this, I believe it's a 6x6 grid. And on your turn, one of the things you're trying to achieve is you're trying to conduct experiments. And experiments use metals that you've managed to transmute on your board. And so an experiment might say, well, I need to have copper, and I need to have iron, and my knowledge of copper needs to be at level 3. And if you do that, if you meet those requirements, you can run that experiment on your turn, and that experiment gives you a picture of a little Tetris brick, right? It might look like the little Tetris Z, for example. And that will allow you to color in an associated number of bricks on your grid, so long as it's in the quadrant that matches the experiments. So the experiments are divided into, earth, wind, fire, and water, the 4 elements. Obviously, the quintessential element is something we're chasing with the Philosopher's Stone. So if it's a fire experiment, anywhere in the fire experiment, I can color in this little Tetris Z brick, which is 4 bricks, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 bricks. As long as at least one of those bricks is in the fire element quadrant, if it's a fire element experiment. You can't rotate it, you can't flip it, it's got to go in exactly in the orientation it is on the experiment card. Now, on the experiment card, there'll be a number of other blockout spaces around this little Tetris Z that are shaded. If you spend a gold when you run the experiment, you get to color in the secondary blocks as well. Now, every row and column on this grid gives you huzzah bennies. So when you're running an experiment, you manage to fill in a row, both the left side and the right side of that row will have a little icon, and you will get to the benefit that's there. You also, when you run an experiment of a certain element, a fire experiment, there's around the grid, there are 4 quadrants in the background. So in the fire quadrant, you get to fill in a knowledge circle, which helps add on for endgame scoring. It's a very tough one to describe verbally without pictures, but trust me, you want to do this. And so on your turn, you've got 3 markets with dice, and you've got cards that are next to the dice, and those cards are the experiments you can run, or they're multi-use cards. So there are 2 parts of the card you can use. You can also use your turn to transmute metals, which is basically taking metal and moving it from the left to the right across your board to make it a different metal. Now, that doesn't necessarily make it more valuable. Certainly experiments that use the more valuable metals tend to get more in-game points and all that sort of thing. But sometimes you want lead. An experiment will say, well, you need 3 lead, and you've been so busy turning your lead into copper and tin and iron. You're like, fuck, I got no lead. And the experiment I want has lead. It's a beautiful, beautiful game. The Trismegistus Roll and Write is so thinky. It's so crunchy. And what happens, of course, is on your turn, you're going to choose a die. There are 3 different dice of colors, and they have different metal icons on them, and there's a card next to it. You're going to choose one, and when you run that column, that die reduces in potency. So it might be start on 3, which means if you choose to take the metal from the die, you're going to get 3 metal. You scoot the die down. You get to do one of the actions off the card that's next to it, and there are 2 cards to choose from. I think there's 2 cards to choose from. And then it moves on to the next player's turn. And so if they really want to run the experiment in that column, they're going to have to use that die, which might not give them the metal that they want. It's so good. It's so good. I think I played 3 games back to back. The solo version of it is really just you get a score and you go to a grid and it says, hey, you're great, or hey, you smell like old garbage. But it's great. I haven't played the Trismegis's main game yet, but I would very much like to get that to the table because I just really love the mechanics in there. And that was it. Trismegis's Roll Right. It's designed by Federico Pierlorenzi, Danielle Tascini, published by Board and Dice. No credited artist, interestingly. There's no credited artist on BGG. I can't find anything on the box of the manual. No credited artist, which is unfortunate. We also, on Project L's birthday, I'm jumping all over the place a bit because there were a lot of games played in the last couple of weeks. We got to play Concordia. Now, yes, this is the OG Concordia from 1804. Maybe it wasn't quite 1804, but it feels like when you look at that beige board. And none of us had played Concordia before. Now, Super Trooper had a copy of Concordia in his library that I believe he's had for 8 years in there. Belongs to somebody else in our group, and it's just been sitting there getting dustier and dustier and dustier. And so, of course, Awaken Realms has a new campaign coming later this year. It's the Concordia reprint with all the toys. Project L said, can we play this game of Concordia? Because I want to work out if I want this brand new whiz-bang with all the toys version instead of this baby beige beige version for babies. That's a lot of bees. So we play Concordia. Concordia is, of course, by Matt Gertz, and I thought Concordia was excellent. I can see the reason it's an evergreen classic. I can see the reason that Awaken Realms is adding it to their list of remakes, because it's that same sort of beige game for old men. But so good. So good. I really liked Concordia. I tried very hard to play Agricola when the Agricola campaign was out with from Awaken Realms, and Project L loaned me her copy of Agricola. I set up on the table, I looked at it, and I just went, ugh. I put it away. I pulled it out later, set on the table, and the fox was like, yeah, I'll play that with you. It's farming. It looks cute. And I just went, ugh. And Agricola might be a triumph. I couldn't get myself over the line of getting to play it. I'm sure it's an absolutely amazing game. I just couldn't do it. Concordia, it just has that old world look about it. It's like there were only 3 colors of paint in 2004. It was beige, sepia, and extra beige. That's all we had. It's back in the day, that's all we had, man. You don't understand. There was no red or blue. But Concordia has a little splash of color, which is nice. Some of the provinces have a splash of color. And I'm not going to go into the details of Concordia because I won't do it justice. But suffice to say, you've got it's a trading game. When I say trading, it's a market manipulation. It's a resource management. And it's points. And the game timer is set up on 2 or 3 different fronts such that, the game will end on whether you run out of cards in the market or whether you've used up all your buildings and building things out. And you start the game off going, well, I'm going to build this building. I've got no resources. Shit. And you get to your second round. And you go, okay, I could do this. Shit, I've got no resources. And by the end of the game, you're like, okay, I am the Emperor God of Dune, and I can do whatever I want in this paltry little world of Concordia. And your last turn, you're like, well, what do I want to do with this mountain of coins in this last building? Do I want to end the game and fist everybody, or do I want to hopefully get one more turn? I really, really enjoyed Concordia. I'm not going to do it justice by trying to describe the gameplay, but as I said, I can understand exactly why it's an evergreen game. I can understand exactly why Awaken Realms is going to be bringing this one to the table, so to speak. Of course, we had the Cracker at the table, who has announced that while he doesn't have his own board game collection, the Cracker and Project L are married, if you've ever missed that link in the past. Has said, well, while I don't have a board game collection of my own, I am the proud sponsor of a board game collection, and he gave it the rubber stamp of approval for sponsorship when it comes out. So I was Project L was happy, Super Troopers happy, I'm happy because I don't have to back it, which is wonderful. So that's Concordia. So if you haven't played Concordia, go play Concordia. Everybody should play Concordia at least once. I'm looking forward to playing it about 10 times. Art I said previously, designed by Matt Gertz. He's also involved in the art in the original. Marina Fehrenbach, Dominic Meyer were also artists. Publisher lists all I've got. It says PD Verlag. I don't know what that means. It's not something I've ever heard of, but I guess maybe since it was published in 1706, maybe they're no longer around anymore. Well, after that, we played it as Project L's birthday, and the birthday girl gets to choose whatever game she wants, and I respect that, because when I had birthday games, I chose whatever games I wanted. I didn't even care. But she wanted to play Rajas of the Ganges, and I always think this is Rajas of the Ganja in my head, and it's so funny, because I always have to pull myself up. Rajas of the Ganges, designed by Inca and Marcus Brandt, who have, 942 games to the name, but most notably, they're responsible for the entire Exit series. They pretty much single-handedly have made every Exit game, every Exit advent calendar, and I'm, the Peanut and I are a big fan of Exit games. And so they're responsible for Rajas of the Ganges. And so Rajas of the Ganges is mini-game the game. There's 4 or 5 or 6 things around the board you're trying to do. You've got a player board in front of you that has blank spaces that you are building tracks in, and the tracks will have buildings or they'll have little trader markets, and basically you're using dice as workers. And Project L's a big fan of dice as workers in games, and the dice are very pretty. And so in Rajas of the Ganges, you have a dice pool in front of you, and you're going to put those dice usually out on the board somewhere as you work. Oh no, sorry, my bad. You're going to take one of your workers and put them in a worker placement spot, and then usually you're going to spend one of the dice you have, which will dictate the strength or the action based on the color and what's going on the board. So you might be building a tile onto your player board. You might be sailing up the river, and as you sail up the river, you get different bennies. You can send your worker to the trader market, and if you look down on your board and you've got varying different spice icons, that will let you convert those spices into points. Points, and you don't want to run out of dice. I remember playing Rajas of the Ganjas the first time. I spent all my dice. I'm like, oh, it's really shitty now, because on my next turn, I'm going to get nothing, and I've got to put a dude out to get a die, and then maybe put a dude out to turn that die into 2 dice. And so I don't think I won the game, but I certainly had a much better time this time, knowing that early in the game I spent a lot of time, at least one part of each turn, getting new dice in some fashion, so I wasn't cooked into the corner. Rise of the Ganges is great. It gives me the same kind of vibes in gameplay as Bitoku. Bitoku's another dice as workers. And again, the strength of the dice very much weigh into what action you can and can't take. And there's a lot of little sort of mini-game things going on. I really like Rajas of the Ganges. And I know I'm going back and forth between Rajas of the Ganges and Rajas of the Ganja. That's intentional, okay? I'd like to think I'm a little bit funny. Enjoy it. Great game. Looks great on the table. It's not a new game by any stretch of the imagination. It's a 2017 release, so not ancient, but 9 years on. But great fun. Really, really enjoyed playing it. That is designed, as I said, by Inca and Marcus Brand, art by Dennis Lohausen, and published by 11 different publishers. I'm sorry, I don't know who published the version we played. I didn't make those notes on the night. And the last one I want to talk about today is a game I've only played a handful of times. I've played it solo a couple of times. It's a beat your own score game solo, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I do like the puzzle. And I played it with Project L and the Cracker at PlayCon, I want to say last year. And this again was another one of Project L's requests for birthdays. We played Underwater Cities. Now, Underwater Cities is the Euro of the Euro, this time in Technicolor. And what you're trying to do in Underwater Cities is trying to build cities underwater. And so you start on a player board, and you've got 3 metropolis cities that are on land, I think, and then you've got this whole underwater space that you've got to fill with domes and underwater farms and desalination plants, and you've got to have tunnels that attach them all. But what I like about Underwater Cities is on your turn you've got these 3 tokens, and there's 3 sections of the board. There's a red one, an orange one, and a green one, and you're going to put your token out. There's, I think, 5 worker placement spaces in each section, and you're going to put your token out in the section, and you go, that's the action I want to do. And you also have to play a card. Now you have a hand of 3 cards, and from your hand you've got to play one of those cards every turn. Now if you can match the color of the card to the color of the action space you're going to, so for example, if I play a green card and I'm going to the green action space, I get to do what the card says as well. So you get the action space and you get the action off the card. And hopefully the action on the card helps you. I mean, none of them are shit, but sometimes they cost things you don't have, or sometimes they do something or work towards a goal that you haven't previously been working towards. But it's a lovely little bit of gameplay. And so you put your token out, you play your card, you do both things, you go around, and you just go around the table. There are 3 eras in the game, so each era the deck of cards refreshes as they get progressively more powerful and do more things. In the middle of the table are special cards that cost a lot to buy, but they do special things. You've got 6 that help endgame points, and you've got a stack of them, which we really didn't hit at all, of more powerful cards that you spend credits on to play. And look, I haven't played a lot of Vladimir Suki games, I'm going to be perfectly honest, but I really enjoy Underwater Cities. I think it's a wonderful puzzle. I think it's maybe a little long. We played it at 4. I think it's probably better at 3. And apparently it plays really well at 2. I haven't played it 2, but apparently it does. But thoroughly enjoyed it. And I have the expansion, the Universities expansion, I think it's called. Sorry. But to be honest, the only reason I bought it is because it came with triple layered player boards that hold your little domes and farms and everything in place. Because the OG game just came with these cards like Arc Nova maps. And these cards are just calling for the sleeve of death to wipe the whole game out. I haven't played with the Universities. I might play with the Universities. I think that Underwater Cities as a game, it's a complete game. I don't think you need it, but I would like to try it. That's Underwater Cities, a game by Vladimir Suki, art by Milan Vavron, published by Delicious Games, who don't make very well-made games, I've got to say. I believe Delicious Games is actually Vladimir Suki's game company. When I say well-made, they're good games. They're just very flimsy. The card stock is flimsy. The board stock is flimsy. They're good games. They're kind of up there with Rio Grande, and that the games are fun to play, but they're not fun to hold, so to speak. And I guess, first world problems.
Boxes on the doorstep, new delights inside. Heaven's on fire, fields to divide.
Well, this week on Incoming, there are a few things that have come in, as tend to do in the bunker. Of course, we had the Trismegistus campaign deliver, along with the Roll 'em Right. I managed to get my hands on a copy of Eternal Decks. Big thanks and shout out to Dean at Advent Games. Dean runs a friendly local game store, which is entirely online, and has an outstanding selection. He managed to get a copy of Eternal Decks for me, and he shot that out, which is fabulous. I've got that ready to go, and I'm very much looking forward to playing that. Well, I had some red wine a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, yes, I do want to own Druids of Adora. Thank you very much. It's a game that I'd looked at, and I thought, well, I'll look at that further down the line. It looks great. I like Steffenfeld mostly. In fact, I don't think I can name a Steffenfeld I haven't enjoyed. And I know it gets a little bit of a up and down out there, and the manual's apparently a bit of a hate crime. And it sort of has been in my Amazon cart for a while, because the only place really to get it in Australia is Amazon UK. They will ship it from Amazon UK, but you can't get it here. And I've always thought to myself, well, I'll look at that somewhere down the line. It's a retail game. I don't need to rush on that. Well, Red Wine Hammers has a very different idea of what somewhere down the line looks like. So, yeah, I'm now the proud owner of Druids of Adora. And, look, no regrets. But Red Wine Hammers and 3 Coffee Hammers need to have a chat, I think. Because, oh, man, my bank account is taking a fucking blasting. There's some really good stuff, some really big stuff coming in. When I say big, I mean both in volume of content and big in name and big in big shoes to fill. But I won't talk about it until it comes in. But watch this space. I'm going to take a little break to make you listen to an ad so that maybe I can buy a latte. We'll see.
I'm a FOMOMOFO, I got games to buy. Game out, Kickstarter, my oh my. I'm a FOMOMOFO, why oh why? To the money, I'll say goodbye.
Welcome to FOMOMOFO, where I take you through my personal, angst-ridden journey of capitalist acquisitionism. As always, this is not an exhaustive list of crowdfunding projects, but merely those that have my personal attention, either because they are by a design and development team I like, a theme I enjoy, or because they got the toys. Sometimes it's all 3, and oh man, do we love it when it's all 3. Well, my stretch pay count is starting to look a little bit like the US economy. It's more than a little insolvent, if I do want to offer up my confessions. My weekly stretch pay payments for future games is getting very, very close to my weekly budgeting figure for my board games account. So something's got to give eventually. And on a completely unrelated note, there is a perfectly good 52-year-old kidney up for sale on eBay. Very reasonably priced. Priced to sell. Reach out if you're interested. As I said, it's priced to sell. So crowdfunding. Well, Brass Pittsburgh finished up last week somewhere in the $9 million US region. Good for them. Late pledges will probably open up before I finish recording day because, well, money. So there's more money going to be happening for Brass Pittsburgh. If you missed the campaign because you thought you could resist and you didn't need Brass Pittsburgh, well, you're going to have a chance to look at it again and go, do I really not need it? Do I really, really not need it? Then buy it. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the only one with problems. But on to crowdfunding. There's a few I want to talk about today. And the first cab off the rank is Dungeon Crawler Carl. Now, Dungeon Crawler Carl is an IP. They are a series of books that are woefully silly and fabulous to read. I've only just started working my way through them. But basically, Dungeon Crawler Carl is a sci-fi fantasy-esque, more fantasy than sci-fi, but a little bit of both, in which Carl is in a reality TV show that is a planet-sized dungeon, and I may have that wrong. As I said, I've only just started, so for any DCC fans out there, my apologies. And it's wild and wacky and stupid and funny all at the same time. And so there is a campaign on BackerKit, of all places. BackerKit, holy shit, when was the last time you backed something on BackerKit? And it's a dual campaign, one for the Dungeon Crawler Carl tabletop role-playing game, and one for a retheme of Unstoppable by John D. Clare. It's a card crafting game, and Unstoppable is a solo game with a co-op mode. You could play it two-player, but ostensibly it's really just a solo game. And so I very much was interested in this, largely because I wanted to back Unstoppable, and at the time when it came out, I didn't quite get it over the line on crowdfunding, and then it was available but not available. It was very hard to buy when it was first released in Australia, and before I had a chance to get a copy, this was announced. I'm like, oh, Dungeon Crawler Carl Unstoppable. Yes, thank you very much. I think I will. So in Unstoppable, basically, you have an escalating deck of baddies that you're trying to attack. You've got these cards that you can upgrade with all kinds of different fun stuff. And I'm assuming the Dungeon Crawler Carl version will be wacky and bizarre and hilarious with that wild art. I'm very much looking forward to this. The all-in for the Unstoppable game is $130 US, which is quite a lot for this game. I can't remember what Unstoppable's worth here in Australia. It's probably $100 from memory for regular Unstoppable. So really $100, but this is $130 US. So that's like, I don't know, $9 million. It's not anymore. It's, what's that? $184 or something Australian. Now, granted, the all-in comes with all the upgraded tokens. It comes with a whole bunch of different play mats, and it comes with a bunch of stuff that I've got zero interest in because, of course, this is a dual campaign. It's a dual game campaign on BackerKit, so it comes with a lot of stickers and fun little merchy things that are more related to the tabletop role-playing game than Unstoppable itself. And so I could probably build a package for less than that had the expansions and whatnot. But look, the base game, not that I'm a base game girl when it comes to pledging. You know, I'm really not a base game girl. If you ever try to take me out and get in my pants, don't show me a base game. The base game, I think, was $60 US, which is like $84 Australian. It's perfectly reasonable. It's perfectly reasonable for the game, and I think that comes with one expansion from memory. And it comes, the Kickstarter version, or the BackerKit version, can't call it Kickstarter, is coming with upgraded tokens, little wooden tokens, a couple of acrylic pieces, dual layer player boards, all kinds of quality life upgrades. Perfectly reasonable. I'm 100% in for the base game. When the pledge manager opens, I will consider throwing some more money at it. It just buys me a few months because this will probably be, the pledge manager will probably be open for 3 or 4 months for this. The challenge I have, and it's not really a challenge because whatever, is that nowhere in the campaign and nowhere in any of the associated documents or links can you find out how much they're proposing to charge shipping. They're saying, well, we'll do our best. When this game comes time for shipping, we'll do our best to get you the best shipping rates. But there's not even an estimate. And while I can completely understand and sympathize with that, it's a bit of a hard one to swallow, I think. That said, it hasn't stopped them. I think the campaign's sitting at $7.5 million US. So shipping or no, I think that they're not going to be held back by the fact they haven't got any shipping listed. But it would be nice to have some kind of estimate, even if there's a caveat at the end going, hey, subject to the whims of the Velveeta Voldemort. You know, we just don't know, but this is what we think it might be. Anyway, Dungeon Crawler Carl, if you like Unstoppable, Dungeon Crawler Carl Unstoppable is out there. It's only going to be at least as good as the regular Unstoppable. If not, this is like a 2.0, so a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of betterment. Very much looking forward to it personally. As I said, I'm in for the base game. They will probably squeeze my little man oysters for a couple of expansions or extras during the Pledge Manager, because I am not, as I said, I am not a base game girly. And that's Dungeon Crawler Carl. It's live now. Up next, this is Tamashii, the Final Amendment. And I'm like, that's right up there with Tidal Blades 2, Rise of the Unfolders. Like, were they fucking doing laundry? What is the Final Amendment? Is this like a legal contract? Tamashii, the fine print. Tamashii, the appendices. Tamashii, the... Anyway, they're calling it Tamashii, the Final Amendment. Maybe there is some in-game lore that explains a name like the Final Amendment, but it sounds like Google Translate got involved and fucked everybody. That aside, I think this looks really cool and really fun. This is a 2.0 of Tamashii, which came out some years ago. It's a cyberpunky dungeon crawler. The color scheme, at least on the player board, it's right out of 1972. It's like neon pink and hot green, and I don't even know if is hot green a color? I feel hot green some days, I'll tell you what. The color scheme on the player boards is a little wild. You know, it's like Agamonia wild. It's that pink and green and neon blue, and I don't know whether they're looking at that sort of retro feel, but that's what it is. I'm not going to lie, this looks like a ton of fun. You're basically hacking and inhabiting different bodies. Your characters get to take on their attributes. It's Awakened Realms, so it's filled with pretty plastic upgrades, toys. The renders of the models you can see on the campaign page will probably look at least in part like the ones that finally turn up. It looks like a fun romp. You know, I'm not going to lie. It took some serious self-flagellation to talk myself out of spending money I don't have on a game that I don't need. It's just a good thing I like that sort of thing. The all-in as it currently stands, because I'm sure there might be some more coming out, but look, the all-in as it currently stands is $270 Australian, and which, to be fair, is pretty fair. There's tons of game, lots of toys. If the gameplay is at least decent, you'll be busy for a long time. Shipping is 47 Australian dollars to Australia, which comes in at just under 24%. It's a no from me, but then again, Red Wine Hammers is the one I need to worry about. Up next, I want to talk about 20 Strong. My boy 20 Strong's got 3 new decks, and they are Awakened Realms games. It's Aetherfield's Tainted Grail and Nemesis. Now, y'all know I'm a big fan of the 20 Strong system. When I travel for work, it's one of the go-tos that I take with me. This is 3 new decks. I've not ever played Aetherfields, but I played Tainted Grail, Kings of Ruin without breathing in between. I was 27 sessions back to back on my table. It was wonderful. It's currently sitting in Super Trooper's garage. He's working his way through it, and when he's done, I will play it again. It is a magnificent game. I have played Nemesis. I really enjoyed Nemesis. I played Nemesis for the first time on my birthday celebrations this year. Thank you, Coop, for game smithing that one for us. And I love 20 Strong. So, I mean, this is an instant yes for me. 20 Strong, as I said, it's the game when I'm traveling for work. I throw 2 or 3 decks in a box. They go in my bag. It's really easy to table. It's really easy to play. There's a subsystem that sits beneath the whole game. Like you've got 3 core stat dice, and the use of those pretty much doesn't change from one iteration to the next. It's how they're used and how the other 17 dice that you've got are used to, and manipulated for the game. If you are jumping in fresh, you can get these 3 decks, but they are now up to 12 different decks, including these 3. So there's a lot to choose from. And if you're a solo gamer at all, I would absolutely encourage you to check these out. I'm not saying buy it. I'm saying check it out. If you're a solo gamer and you like those solo puzzles, the fact that you've got this one system, this is called the 20 Strong system, that sits and underpins all these different games, and they managed to create games that feel completely different. There's a Cloudspire game, that feels a tower defense game, and you've got the Tanglewoods, which is Little Riding Hood and Goldilocks and whatnot, and each of them feel different, and the art's different from game to game. It's fabulous. But the new bundle, which is the new 3 decks, it's $100 Australian for 3 decks. I mean, $33 for a card game, guys, with the production quality of Chip Theory. All the cards are plastic. They're all PVC. You can't rip them. You can't tear them. You can't ruin them with water. You can play this in the pool. It's a pretty good price. Shipping is $27 Australian, so it's 27%. But I would note that Chip Theory Games is remarkably good at embedding the cost of shipping in the cost of the games. That $27 is flat. So no matter how much 20 strong you order, you want 3 decks, you want 12 decks, you want the game vault box, because they've got a wonderful storage system as well. There's a 20 deck game vault that sits on your shelf that holds everything. There's a 3 deck box for traveling. There's a 1 deck box for traveling. It's all in there. And it's $27 shipping to Australia no matter what you order, which is just wild. If you want metal dice, they've got alloy metal dice. I don't own the alloy dice, but they are sexy as fuck, and they look pretty chunky. So when I say I don't own the metal dice, that's not to say that they may not find their way, thank you, Red Wine Hammers, into the pledge manager for this one, but we'll see. Next on the roster today is Claustrophobia 1692. I don't know the significance of the year 1692 because I don't know enough about Claustrophobia lore, or maybe there's something else about 1692 that I'm not familiar with. But this is Devere entering the crowdfunding space. Devere of Batoku, Devere of the Red Cathedral, Devere of White Castle. They're entering the crowdfunding space. I believe this is their first crowdfunding game. And this is a 2-player combat dungeon crawler, so quite niche. As far as I can tell, this is part remake, part sequel with an expansion. Claustrophobia is a game that came out some time ago. I don't believe it was a Devere game at the time. They got the rights to it. And it's a re-release with some tweaks, so it's kind of a remake. It's not quite a full second game. And this is on my radar because, 1, it looked gorgeous, and 2, I'm a big fan of Devere's output. I think Devere makes good games. You know, they've done the reprint of, and while they can't take any credit for it, it was Paraloco originally, of Phoenix New Horizon, which is on my shelf of opportunity. I believe they're taking and doing the reprint for Orloy. They're going to have the English reprint for Orloy as well. You know, they tend to make, as far as I'm aware, good games. My experience with Devere has been effusively positive. Ultimately, for me, after having spent a bit of time on this and recalling that Lands of Evershade is due on my doorstep any possible minute, it's a no for me, but I gotta say, it actually looks great. The gameplay looks interesting. It's 2-player, so it's interesting that it's basically a dungeon crawler and combat game that's 2-player. And you can get the new game, the new base game, and the De Profundis expansion. It's $170 Australian with shipping. Shipping's a whopping $52, so almost 31%. But at the end, it looks like a lot of game. It's about $220 out of pocket in 2026. That's pretty much what you come to expect for a crowdfunding game of any caliber or quality these days. I really can't say otherwise. And last on today's list, you like zombies? Hang on. Do you like pirates? Oh, yes, me. I like zombies. I like pirates. Breathe. Zombicide, Dead Men Tales. So much. Yes, I love Zombicide. It's a Ameritrash dice chucker. It's swingy. It's luck driven, but it doesn't take itself seriously. It is what it is. And oh man, I love pirates. Zombicide pirates can have all the monies. This is the first Zombicide since Asmodee bought the IP from Simon, and to be honest, I think it's a smart move. You know, Zombicide with pirates. I mean, they've done Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they've done Black Plague. This is going to fit into their fantasy line. Well, not their fantasy line, the fantasy line. It's currently held by Simon. Well, it might be held by Asmodee. Asmodee, I think, might hold all the rights now. I might have that wrong. So this is the first one that's been produced by Asmodee, and I think it's a great niche. I can't see it skyrocketing into a $10 million space, but to be fair, those days are probably done for Zombicide. But if it hits a couple of million, it's probably a good sweet spot for this IP in its current lifespan, and probably a good start for Asmodee. I think it's about to tick over $1 million. It's not yet finished a week. It's not, you know, the Brass Pittsburgh $3 million by day 3 sort of thing. But I could see this hitting a good, $2.5 million, which probably for what Asmodee paid for it and picked it up for their first iteration of it, I think that's quite positive. This is full of pirates, both fictional and real. It's got ghost zombies, aquatic abominations, cannons, treasure, plunder, Grom galore. Can't have rum in a game that kids will play, I'm guessing. So we have Grom. You drink Grom and it gives you huzzas. I don't know what it gives. It gives you bonus actions or extra strength, whatever. And the core base game and stretch goals, it looks like there's going to be a ton of content as you'd expect from a Zombicide campaign. There's already an add-on expansion you can buy, which is a 10-game campaign. Yes, please. And you can bet by the end of this, there will be acrylic tokens, gold coins, extra map tiles, more expansion boxes, etc. The core game is currently $153 Australian, which for a box of Zombicide is about standard. The second edition, Zombicide second edition, is selling today here in Australia for $148, and that's without any stretch goals or any extras. If you log in and have a look at it, there won't be an all-in, I'm putting that in air quotes, post till the last week of the campaign, because there's so much more coming in stretch goals, and they're going to eat those out. So you start off spending your $110 US, and by the end, I expect this will come in somewhere around $400 Australian. You know, for everything, it's about what I paid, maybe a little less than I paid for Deceased, and I'm probably likely to get this game. So yeah, they're going to get my money. And currently shipping for the core pledge is $46, which is 30%, which is quite a bit. But I'd expect as the pledges get bigger, the cost of the shipping might go down. Not as a dollar figure, but as a percentage. You know, an all-in, I'd like to think that would come in at 23-24%, but we'll see. You won't know till last week. Do you like zombies? Do you like pirates? I don't need red wine hammers to get involved with this one, really. Did I mention... Did I mention earlier there's a kidney up for grabs? We're coming up fast on mid-year, which is a bit mind-boggling, to be honest. I have a couple of campaigns on my watch list for the next few months, most notably Scoundrels, which is another Awakened Realms IP. It's basically Clank set in the Lands of Evershade universe. Terraforming Mars, the legacy game, well, half the legacy game, because they're only releasing half of it, goes live in a couple of weeks. Be really interested to see what happens with that. I'm not going to pledge for it personally, but I'm keen to see what happens with that, because Terraforming Mars was a lot of people's first real game, and there's a lot of nostalgia attached to it. I would expect that it's going to blow up a little bit, and there'll be the, you know, carry on moaning of, well, why are we only getting half of it, and blah, 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 but whatever. Yeah, that's it. I'm not really watching anything else, but then that doesn't really matter. You know, I often wake up on crowdfunding launch day, which in Australia is Wednesday. It's Tuesday for the rest of you, and go, oh, because there's something new that I didn't know about or wasn't on my radar or I forgot about, and then they get my monies. But then, what are we all working for if not to do things that make us happy? This makes me happy.
Voices in my head, I'm talking to myself. What board game should I get down off the shelf? What should we do? What game should we play? One steal and one will use workers to pay.
This week on Voices in My Head, I want to talk, it's a little niche topic, and it's going to go around in a bit of a circle, and I'm hopeful that it's interesting by the time it's done, but I want to talk about replacement parts. You know, sometimes you open a game, and something's missing. It's happened to me more than a few times, you know, a few times, and a few times, being perfectly honest, it's me, I've lost a piece. I put a game away, and I'm going, fuck, where's that blue disc? And I want to say, as a general whole, I have had a very, very good run with replacement parts from game manufacturers, distributors, and publishers. You know, most board game publishers that I've had an opportunity to interact with have a superb replacement response. And even Stonemaier, for example, Stonemaier will replace pieces that wear out. If you've got cards that have worn out, or you've got game pieces that, you know, are 2 and 3 years old and they've worn out, I'm pretty sure you can go to their website and fill out a form and they send you new ones free of charge. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And recently, our group, we played Kalamala, and we packed it away, and later at home I was repacking it because I printed off an insert for it, because Kalamala is basically 900 bags in a box, and it looks like somebody threw up board game pieces. And so I was packing an insert, and I found I was missing a piece. And I thought, oh, well, we didn't play with this one, so it must have been missing, and I didn't notice we didn't play with this color. And so I reached out, filled it in the online form. The piece got to me in like 7 days from Europe. New piece in an envelope. Well, thank you very much. Off you go. And I later discovered that, yes, we did play with that piece. Not that it would have made things different, but if I'm reaching out for a replacement piece at my fault, I tend to word my request a little differently. Like, for example, I was punching Perch the other day before we played it. And Perch has these gorgeous acrylic standees. Instead of cardboard standees or minis, acrylic standees. And they're beautiful. And I was putting one of the pieces into the standee base, and it snapped in my hands. And I reached out to Inside Out Games. I said, look, guys, I was doing this, and I was probably a little ham-fisted. Could I please get a replacement base? I'm very happy to pay for it. I'm happy to pay shipping. This is my fault, not yours. It wasn't missing. I broke it. And like 5 days later, whoop, here's the new base with a little thank you note. and no problem at all. And I guess that's what game distributors and publishers and designers do, but it's just so nice when it happens to you. I've had similar experience with Eagle Griffin. This one was with Lacerda's Inventions. I was punching and packing, did a count, was missing a piece. Boop, it arrived, no problem. You fill out a form, and it's somebody somewhere is sitting at a desk, and it's their job to read these things and go find the one piece and stick it in a snap lock, stick it in an envelope, and go put it in the post. And as a gamer, I am so eternally grateful. This wasn't regarding replacement parts, and I've told this story before, but it's worth mentioning again. When I bought Xia Legends of a Drift System, I received the game. I'd ordered it with the expansion that allowed you to play it solo. And unfortunately, I ordered them from 2 different distributors because that's where they had it in stock. It's a little hard to find in Australia. So the game came, and then like 10 days later, I got a notice from the other company I ordered from going, oh, this is out of stock. No idea when it's coming back. And I was like, fuck. Because I really bought it to play solo. I didn't buy it to play with anyone else. And so I reached out to... what is it? I reached out to the game publisher. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the company right now. It'll come to me later. And I ended up getting in touch with the game designer himself because it's a small company. It was Cody Miller. And he said, look, I got you. And he basically sent me the expansion. Right? And look, I'm not trying to say do this to providers, but he didn't even charge me for it. He's like, dude, I want you to play my game. You want you to play my game. Here it is. And he sent it from the US. And it wasn't a big expansion. It was a small one. But it allowed me to play the game that I so badly wanted to play. And one of the things I love is that this industry, largely, I'm not talking about the Asmodees and the Simons. I'm not shitting on Simon either, but they're a big company. Or the Awakened Realms. They really, really care about you playing the game and having the experience. Every single interaction I've had at my level with these distributors, almost every single, we're going to get to that, has been so effusively positive and has resulted in such a wonderful end. It was resulted in a good end result. That is shitty Englishing, James. Anyway, you get my point. And on the flip side, I do hear some horror stories, and this is not me soapboxing to complain, but I want to share the story. I recently received my pledge for the crowdfunding campaign of Trismegistus. This is a rework of the classic game, new art, new components, all tweaked for 2026, and the game looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. I mean, it seems that there are some serious issues with the player boards. These are a folding board, and it seems that the tolerances for the part of the board that hold it together back are woefully thin, and people are having their boards just basically ripping in two. The campaign page is blowing up with people absolutely venting their rage. I can understand. Like, I would take a gentler tack first going, hey guys, I think maybe we missed the mark. If you're looking at or going to be producing a nicer version of these boards, I would happily be on a mailing list to find out when that happened. I'm not one that gets on and goes, these are shit, do something about your shit boards. That's what people are literally saying, and it's really quite embarrassing. And to be honest, I unboxed my version, I punched it, I put it together, and I put the little player boards together, and I was like, yeah, I see what you mean. I'm just going to be really gentle, but I can see a world in which they're going to end up getting packing tape on the back of them to hold them together. It's that kind of production. But unpacking my pledge and all my stuff, well, the acrylic deluxe upgrade bits are missing, and that's all the chunky pieces. It replaces all the cardboard tokens. As really any opportunity I get to in a crowdfunding campaign, I will take the deluxe tokens. I will usually take the metal pieces, whatever, because I like it. I like it. It's not going to make or break the game for me, but particularly when it's a pretty game, I'd take it. They're not there. Okay, no problem. I went off to their ticketing system, lodged the ticket with them. Easy, right? I had an issue. This is Board and Dice, by the way. Board and Dice has done this game, Trismegistus. Board and Dice has a lot of games to their name, a lot of experience. I had an issue with Teletum a few years ago. It was missing a piece. I hopped on the system, filled it in. I got the piece very, very quickly. No problem. They got it to me in a matter of weeks. So I've lodged my ticket, carefully outlined the issue, included photos of what I had and the issues, and sometime later I got an email. And in that email, they said, well, you just want to confirm that you're saying you're missing X. And I'm like, no, I sent you a photo of X. What I'm missing is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and Z. So I calmly wrote back, no, the photo you've got is what I have. This is the retail version. And so I was very calm. I sent some more photos and I wrote back. Now, I get that they are probably drowning in a conflagration of complaints about the player boards, but here I am, I'm missing a major part of my pledge, and this was over 2 weeks ago and I have no reply. Now, by comparison, when I emailed Far Off Games, that's the company, when I emailed Far Off Games about Zaya, I had a reply in 2 hours. They came back and went, this really sucks, let's see what we can do for you. Now, I know that Far Off Games and Board and Dice are two ends of the spectrum, right? Far Off Games has like 3 games to their name, Board and Dice has a gazillion. But most of these ticketing systems have an escalation protocol, such that if something hasn't been responded to in an appropriate time frame, there's an alert, it gets escalated, boom, boom, reply to this one, at least an email going, hey, you're still in the queue, we got you, we'll sort this. I mean, that said, this all falls into first world problems, and today, let's wind it back, I did set out to discuss replacement parts. So, with Board and Dice and these player boards, they really will be an issue. As I said, I can foresee a world which my copy involves packing tape. I have to say that Board and Dice isn't necessarily known for quality production. I mean, I have Nucleum, and Nucleum has these technology track holders that sit to the left of your player board, and you're meant to lock in these little notch tokens, which are your technologies as you invest them and upgrade them, whatever. And the track is built like a sparrow's fucking rib cage, right? They're a living, breathing nightmare. I mean, Nucleum also was delivered out with the absolute shittest excuse for a packing insert. It was literally little white cardboard combs that are meant to interlock and make a floppy frame in the box that ostensibly holds your pieces somewhat separated. I mean, I can't even say what they were thinking. I put it together, looked at it for 8 seconds, and went straight in the fireplace. It was winter when I got my Nucleum. I'm like, burn it! I'm not sure what the point is of those things. When R&D, even if you could call it R&D, looked at these and let's send these little white combs out that interlock like picket fences and do fucking nothing, when they could have invested that time, effort, printing cost into a better technology token managing system. But anyway, what am I trying to get to? At this stage, I put Board and Dice in the same room as Rio Grande Games or Delicious Games. They make good games. They don't make games well. They make a game that is interesting, engaging, fun to play, but it really is B or C tier components. On the flip side, I look at Far Off Games and their production. They're a smaller company. They're absolutely zealous about making games well. I mean, they're responsible for Zaya. They're responsible for Iridia, The Past We Dare Tread. And they are zealous about the quality of the components. And I want to recognize Far Off Games only has a couple of games to the name, but their last crowdfunding campaign, which is the reprint of Iridia, took in $1.7 million US. Trismegistus only raised 217,000 euros. Now, I recognize these are different games, different demand, different demo, but I can't help but think if Board and Dice took their production quality and customer service a little more seriously, that they might have better sales. I mean, Board and Dice released 187 titles since 2018. Now, yes, some of those are expansions, but it's no doubt they're successful at what they do at that pace. But at this stage, I know who I'd prefer to give my money to. Replacement parts and post-purchase customer service is essentially the last impression a publisher, distributor, developer, whoever's been involved in it will make. Even if the game is great, a shitty experience in this regard, 3 more months waiting before I have my pretty bits to play the game with, this all adds up. You got your first impression, and yeah, that's important. But your last impression, that's the goodnight kiss before you fuck off into the darkness, right? And what's going to end up happening is Trismegistus is going to get played, and I'm going to play it with the cardboard bits. And I'm not going to die. It's not like I'm going to have an aneurysm and fall down. But what it'll mean is it won't get played the way I had hoped and wanted and paid to play it for a very long time. Because you know what happens? You get these games, you get them on the table, you play them 2-3 times. Yeah, you put them away, they go on the shelf, and then they go into rotation. Rotation could mean it's not coming out for ages. I have no indication right now what month these replacement acrylic... I have no doubt they'll come. I have no doubt these acrylic pieces will come. None whatsoever. Board and Dice is a big company. I have no doubt they'll come. But what if it's like, they're like, oh, wow, we're out now, so it's going to be 8 months before we do a reprint. I'm like, well, fuck. It all adds up. As I said, this is the last impression. Again, first world problems. But board games are not an essential purchase. They are a luxury. And when you buy a board game, you are buying the whole experience. For the most part, my experience with replacement parts has been effusively positive. For those companies that have lost sight of this crucial part of the equation, this space is getting more competitive, not less. If Asmodee doesn't know everything in the next 5 years, that is, but it's getting more competitive. There are more companies, more games, more experiences vying for your attention. We as gamers are ever looking for more and more reasons to be specific with spending our money. And for those companies that are losing sight of the last goodnight kiss, Pay attention would be my advice. Well, that's a wrap for today, OMC crew. I would like to offer the clap to one Efka of No Pun Included. I don't know Efka. I've never spoken to Efka. I'd love to speak to Efka. I think he would be a very interesting conversation. He recently did an episode on YouTube that talked at length about minis and mini production and minis in board game, and talked about them both as a marketing tool, as a psychological manipulation tool. The episode is exceptional, and while it's still riddled with opinions, it's presented very well and it's well researched. He goes on to discuss the trap of minis and plastic toys, while at the same time openly discussing the fact that he himself is well in that trap. It's very much worth your time. I think it's interesting, and I came out of it looking at games a little differently. I'm still a mini girl, right? Like, you send me a game with minis, I'm also leaning more towards acrylic standees, but the point is, you've got a game with beautiful minis. It's got my attention, and it's got me looking at my own buying habits just with a little more of an open mind. That doesn't mean I'm ever going to change. I just have a greater understanding of how I'm being manipulated. I'll link the episode in today's show notes. It's worth your, as I said, it's 27 minutes or something. It's worth your time. This clap, here's to you, sir.
Sorry.
Well, you can reach me on all the socials. You can find me on Facebook by searching One Man Clapping. You can email me at wonmanclapping@gmail.com. I'm on Instagram. You can join the One Man Clapping Guild on BGG and subscribe to Guild 4426. I will have episode notes up in there this week. You can help OMC by dropping me a like on Facebook or Instagram, or by leaving a review on whatever platform you choose. If it's a bad review, I will only cry a little. And lastly, thank you as always for your time. Your time is precious, and the fact that you chose to waste an hour of it listening to how I spend my time is always humbling. Until next time, get your game on. Even if you're going to play with yourself, there are worse ways to go. This week's episode has been brought to you by Nespresso Coffee Pods. Not affiliated, except in as much that my bloodstream is currently 42% caffeine. Peace out, mofos.
Locked in the bunker, shadow shade. One